Is the screen visible and my voice audible? Yeah. Let us start the class. How are protocols classified? How are protocols classified? Stateless protocol, stateful protocol. One type of protocol is stateless, another is stateful protocol. For example, assume it is client. It is server. Client sent a request to server. The moment client connects to server, client socket available with server. It is client socket. Server has given the response. Client requested. Server sent the response to the client. We say that request response cycle is over. Once that cycle is over, if server forgets about the client, forgets means the socket is destroyed. Server does not maintain client details the moment it gives the response to the client. Okay. If the server has got no memory of earlier connections, the moment it gives the response to the client, it forgets the client. It does not maintain the details of the client. Then we say the protocol is stateless. Once client connects to server, client details are maintained by the server. Otherwise, how server can give the response to the client? The moment server gives the response to the client, after giving the response to the client also, if server maintains that client socket, one more client request came, one more client request came, one more client socket server maintains, response goes to the next client, but still earlier connections, if server is maintaining, that protocol is known as stateful protocol. If it does not maintain, it is called stateless protocol. So, after giving the response to the client, if the client is disconnected from the server, server forgets about the client. Server does not maintain any client details. In such case, the protocol used between that client and server is known as stateless protocol. If it remembers the clients, if it maintains the prior connections, after giving response also, if server maintains the client details, then we call it as a stateful protocol. HTTP is a stateless protocol. HTTP is a stateless protocol. An example is there, FTP, file transfer protocol. It is a stateful protocol. Our discussion here is HTTP. It is not FTP, file transfer protocol. Assume the server is FTP server, client connected to the server, server given response to the client, server still maintains the connection. It will not disconnect the client after giving the response until client intentionally logs out. Okay, server maintains the client connections because the protocol used is a file transfer protocol. File transfer protocol is a stateful protocol. File transfer protocol is a stateful protocol. If a server has got no memory of prior connections, the protocol is said to be stateless. If it has, it is stateful, means memory of prior connections. FTP, file transfer protocol, is a stateful protocol. HTTP is a stateless protocol. So web server is also known as HTTP server, because between the browser and web server, the communication used is HTTP. So web server, it is also known as HTTP server because it uses hypertext transfer protocol. Browser sends a request to web server. Assume doing online shopping. One user is doing online shopping. Very good. User interacts with the website, added one item, one product to the cart, shopping cart. Request goes from browser to web server. Browser connected to the server. Things happened. Response goes back to browser. The moment response goes to the browser, who forgets about the client? Web server forgets. Forgetfulness is a blessing, remember. Generally, people feel, I am forgetting, it is a problem. Sometimes may be a problem, but most of the times, forgetfulness is a blessing. Okay. God gives forgetfulness to mankind. Otherwise, mankind would have completely erased from the planet. Our own person died. We get the feeling that day we also should die. We suffer that much. The next day, it reduces. That next day reduces. After a few days, we forget. If that forgetfulness is not there, gone the story forever. Okay, here also same, like, okay. Now, shopping not complete. One item added to the cart. Same user, second time interacting with the website. And browser thinks, yeah, just now I sent the request, added one item. No? Web server says, get out. I don't know who you are. Gone. Finished. Browser is taking for granted. I interacted just previously. I added one item. Now one more item. First of all, who are you? I don't know. I already forgot you. That's all. That's all. One cycle, request response cycle is over. Client is disconnected from the web server. Every request is a fresh request. No connectivity. Previous connections are not maintained. So please remember. So HTTP provides better performance, but poses some challenges to the web application developers as user interaction with the website should be stateful. Protocol is stateless. Every time web server disconnects the browser, every request is a fresh request. It is a technical concept, but our website should not forget the user now. For example, online banking. User entered the username password, submits the form. Control goes to web server. Somehow, those user credentials are verified. Correct username, password. Next services page is given to the client. services page is given to the client. Yeah. So now user should continue. Already logged in, na? Balance inquiry, funds transfer. Now user clicked on balance details hyperlink. Request goes to the server. Server says, get out. I don't know who you are. That's it. Gone. How balance inquiry possible? How funds transfer possible? Lifelong login only will be sufficient. I just know logged in. You send the response also. I don't know. I forgot you. That's all. That forgetful nature is HTTP, that protocol nature. That is why web server also, it does not maintain the user or client details. If it does not maintain, how to provide online services? Technically, every cycle browser is getting disconnected, but somehow, user details, user data at server side, we have to maintain. Technically getting disconnected, but somehow at website side, I mean server side, that user interaction with the website should be maintained. Protocol is stateless, but user interaction with the website should be stateful. Otherwise, all the online services cannot be provided. For example, you are doing online result. You enter the hall ticket number, you get the result. No need of previous things remembering. But when you are doing online banking, once you log in, until you log out, series of interactions, users' details, users' banking data, it should be maintained in a series of client-server interactions. That's what you have to understand the point. Okay. So, stateful protocol does not support more clients because it maintains the client sockets, multiple, few tens or maximum 100. That's it. It cannot maintain more than that. Performance bad. But few lakhs of clients also web server can maintain because of forgetfulness. Okay. So that's what you have to understand, please. Today's topic is session tracking. Okay. What is the purpose of session tracking? After talking about purpose, I will tell you what is session tracking. That is the plan. So, what is the purpose of session tracking? HTTP stateless, but user interaction with the website somehow should be made stateful. Protocol you cannot change. Protocol nature remains stateless only for performance reasons. But our application, our web server forgets the client and the user, but our application should maintain the details. That's what the point to understand. To make users interaction with the website stateful. Users interaction with the website stateful means user logged in. Response services page goes to the user. Technically, this browser and the user disconnected from the web server because HTTP is stateless. But somehow at server side, okay, any number of times user is interacting, you should recognize the user and user's previous data you should be able to maintain. Otherwise, you cannot provide online service to the user. To make users' interaction with the website stateful, we need to implement session tracking. That's all. What is a session? Then I will say what is tracking. Then I will show you how to do session tracking. What is a session? In general, time period between users login and logout is nothing but a session. In a Java web application, a session is nothing but HTTP session object. Everything is an object in Java. So, what do you understand about session? General concept is user logged in and logged out. The time period between user login and logout is a session. But user session also represented as an object at the server side. That object is HTTP session object. Okay. What is session tracking? What is session tracking? Keeping track of user interaction with the website in a series of client server interaction is nothing but session tracking. So, session tracking is a mechanism of keeping track of user interaction. So, user started interacting with the website. Assume 20 times interacted, 20 times. But protocol wise, server wise, Every time it is a fresh request, previous connections are not maintained by the web server. Then how can you provide service to the user? That is why, okay, in a series of client server interactions, recognizing who the user is and maintaining the user's data in the entire interaction, keeping track of user's interaction with the website. That is session track. Okay. Two things are involved in session tracking. Two things are involved in session tracking. Number one, user or client identification. User identification. Second is data management. Users data management. So, who you are and what is about your previous data. Current data not a problem. Request.get parameter will give the current interaction data. Previous data. Online shopping. In one interaction, you added 2 items to the cart. Cycle complete. Server forgot you. Second time, you only added one more item to the cart. First, server side, we should recognize who you are and should maintain your previous data. You logged into banking website. You got the services page. You can see the balance. You can do funds transfer. So many things you can do. But the moment you logged in, response given to you, technically, web server has disconnected your browser. You are technically, physically disconnected. Okay, after logging in is over. When you are clicking on balance inquiry pay link, it's a fresh connection again. But technically connection is fresh. But somehow server should remember you. You only sending the next request. You only sending that next request. Server should maintain. Server side, it should be maintained. Web server cannot maintain because it is HTTP server. It is the programmer's responsibility. So our responsibility through some programming concept, we should maintain session tracking. So 100 times user may interact. Every time, oh, that interaction from that user only, we should be able to identify. Not only that, that fellow's previous data also you have to maintain. If you cannot maintain, you cannot provide online service to the customers. Not all the services, more than 70-80% of the services you cannot provide if you don't maintain this statefulness. Okay. Exactly 2-3 minutes more. I speak. Assume it revision like it is a banking website, means online banking application. There are same website, na? Because same bank customers, same bank customers. Okay, first user with browser. Okay, logged in, logged in. Response also given back. After login successful, next online services providing page has come. And one more user, bank customer. doing online banking, logged into that website. Okay, fine. Now, three people interacted with the website, all of them logged in. The moment user logged in, client socket is maintained here. The moment response is given, the socket is destroyed. Who forgot whom? Who forgot whom? Server forgot the client. Why? Because HTTP is a stateless protocol. But how can you provide online banking services such with such forgetfulness? That is why, let protocol be like that. But through some programming effort, until user intentionally logs out in a series of any number of interactions, somehow I will identify that fellow and I will remember, I will maintain that fellow's previous data. Such keeping track of users' interaction with the website. That is known as session tracking concept. So, as a programmer, as a developer, application developer, in the implementation of session tracking, how many things are involved? I said two things. What those two? Identifying who the user is. Number two, that user's data maintenance. So that is called user's data. Who the user is, what your previous data. So such things maintaining is nothing but session tracking. Next story should be how to implement session tracking. How to implement session tracking in a Java web application. How to implement session tracking in a Java web application. Step 1. Create the session. Create the session. HTTP session is equal to request dot get session. Step 1. Step 2. Deal with users data in session scope. Step 3. End the session. First, create the session. Last, end the session. In between, deal with user data. Just 3 steps. I have to elaborate these steps and example. Then only total clarity will come. Theory time, 50 to 60% idea will come. Once we implement that example, then 100% clarity will come. Moral of the story, example will come tomorrow. Okay, tomorrow Saturday, but still we'll have class. Still we'll have class, please. Okay, fine. So, how to end the session? How to deal with the user data? Exactly when this line is executed, what happens in the background? Let me explain now. Session tracking, first general understanding is important, then technical understanding, and then implementation. then total idea will come. When you are doing online shopping without session tracking, online shopping service cannot be provided. You are doing online banking, you are logging in. Without session tracking, no service can be provided. I am not saying every time session tracking required, I am not saying. For example, you are visiting your university website, entering your hall ticket number, getting your result. There, single interaction only, na? You are logging into university website. No. General link you click, enter the hall ticket number, get the result page. No session tracking required there. Your ticket booking, online ticket booking, you are selecting seat. You will not get the ticket now. Interaction is over. It shows you book, seat selected, like next payment. Like that, 5 to 6 client server interactions required before your ticket is booked. Then there also session tracking should be implemented. An online service with a single interaction, if you are able to provide, session tracking not required. But with users multiple interactions only, one service can be provided to the user online, then definitely you should implement a session tracking concept. That's what you have to understand, please. Okay. The other day, I was talking about this request object and servlet context object. Now I say HTTP session object. How many request objects are created? How many client requests come? Those many request objects. But how many servlet context objects created? For the entire project, only one servlet context. How many HTTP session objects are created? Per user, only one. If 100 users are interacting with your website, for each user sake, one separate session object. Per user, one session object. Single user, 100 times interaction may be doing. Every time brand new request object. Request object is not one per user, one per client server interaction. But session object, one per user. Context object, one per entire application. Request object, one per request. If same user 100 times interacting, 100 request objects created, the moment cycle is complete, they are destroyed also. If you store the data in request object, we call it as request scope. If you store data in servlet context object, it is called application scope. If you store data in HTTP session object, it is known as session scope. Okay. And We have to understand this story, please. How things, first generally, lot of technicality involved here. Okay, till the end of the today's class, don't log out and foolishly come tomorrow and cry that not understanding. It is minimum senselessness. Today, till the end of the class, if you listen, then only come to tomorrow's class. Otherwise, useless. Right? Very good. So this is client. Browser request came to website. It is client. Client means browser. But client on its own, it will not. No? One user is interacting with the website through browser. On behalf of the user, on behalf of the user, on user's behalf, client sends the request to the server. Assume, apply common sense, assume this user first time send a request to the server. First time, assume. At that time, we write code. You have to write some code, please. Without writing the code, session tracking cannot be implemented. As a programmer, what we'll do is, okay, in the background, HTTP session is equal to request dot get session. This line is executed. First time we write like that. What happens in the background? Yeah. Control came from browser to server. In the servlet, in the server side program servlet, this line is executed. This line is executed. Today only with 2 to 3 installments, I will try to explain. Today only, but 2-3 installments. First installment, you cannot understand the concept. Now the discussion is what happens in the background when request.getSession method is executed. Very good. You know what will happen? From the browser, anything is coming or not is verified first. Yes, in the server-side Java program called servlet, what is verified? From the browser, anything is coming is verified. What is that anything, That is called session ID as a cookie. So, when first time client request is coming, session ID will not come because browser does not create the session ID. It is the server side program. At server side, it is created. Therefore, when first time client request is coming, browser does not send any session ID to the server. Okay, nice. Now tell me, any session ID coming from the browser? No. Then you know what is created. One brand new session object created. What is created here? One brand new session object created. Not only session object created, one session ID also created. session ID created. Tell me, when first time the request is coming, any session ID coming? No. Therefore, what happens in the background is once brand new session object created, for that session object, one unique session ID created. Very good. After that, what will happen, that session ID is written to the response object. Session ID is written to the response object. Tell me what will happen. Because it is written into the session response object, now session ID will go to the browser. Session ID goes to the browser. Tell me, when first time user request is coming to the servlet, in the background, what is done? One brand new session object created, one session ID generated, that session ID send to the browser. The sending, programmer need not write any code for that. It automatically happens. Please. Okay, so session ID is sent to the browser in the background. Finished. Same website, another user sending the request. Browser different, website same, server same, but user different. Very good, very good. So now request is going from this fellow to whom? To this one. Same line of code is executed because same servlet received the request. Now tell me, if the first time request is coming from browser to server, any session ID will come? No, will not come. Then what will happen? A brand new session object created. Session object created. For every session object, session ID is unique. Finished. Now tell me, when response is going to the client, what will be sent? Session ID will be sent, please. Second time onwards, 1, 2, 3 session ID, some unique. This is 1, 2, 4. This is the session ID. Tell me, first time when user interacted with the website, brand new session object created. For that session object, one unique ID is generated. That ID invisibly sent to the browser. If 100 users interacted with the website, means 100 customers logged into banking website. In the background, how many session objects created? 100 session objects created. For each customer, one session object. But per session object, session ID is unique. Okay. Response goes to the browser. Invisibly, as a cookie, we call it as. What is traveled to the browser? Session ID traveled to the browser. Now coming to technical HTTP protocol. After one cycle complete, who disconnected from whom? Browser disconnected from the server. Socket destroyed. But don't forget, session ID sent to the browser. User does not know all these things. Now, second time onwards, customer started using the same website. Browser invisibly sends the session ID. Previously, it received the ID. That session ID it will send to the server. It will send to the server, that's all. Now tell me, which line is executed? Which line is executed now? This line is executed. Same line is executed. Request dot get session. Now tell me what happens in the background. Is brand new session object created? No. First of all, any session ID coming from the browser are not verified. Yeah, coming now. It is coming now. Now, at the server side, with that session ID, search is made. So many session objects are maintained. Based on that session ID, search is made. And earlier created session object only retrieved. Any data, hundreds of times user may be interacting. In every interaction, that user's data is stored in that session object only. When you say checkout, shopping cart, okay, all the data stored in that session scope is displayed to the user. Okay, so details are stored in session object. Session is unique per user. Okay, so story goes like that. It is some idea, please. If another user is interacting, that fellow session ID different, session object different. So website same, project same, users are many, interaction multiple times. Between every client server interaction, same session ID up and down will be traveling in the form of a cookie. Okay, so now tell me, how many session objects are created for a website? For each user, one session object. 100 times same user may be interacting. 100 different request objects created, but session object is one per user. I don't know how much you understood like. Session is not complete. I ask you to ask some doubts regarding this explanation, not other doubts. 5 minutes you can ask. After that, I will continue the class. So if you log out now, unless you are a fool, you should not come to tomorrow's class again. Yeah, I unmuted. You can unmute yourself if anybody wants to ask question on this discussion only, no other topic. Any question, please?
Hello, sir. This is Chakravarti.
Yeah, yeah.
Sir, session will have expiry time,
I
like
did
a time
not talk
also.
expiry. Let us talk about birth. Why to talk about death, sir?
Like in some banking websites, they will be show after 2 or 3 minutes.
Sir,
They will.
I told you, whatever I explained till now, on that only ask the doubt I told. Look at the screen now. What is step 3?
End the session.
That is death. That is death.
Okay, okay.
Because we are not talking, first talking about how the
Birth of
creation
the.
happened only.
Okay.
That's
Thank you.
most.
Good evening, sir. Manas here. When
Yeah.
the user when user launches any URL in a browser, it interacts with the server. That is called session, right? So automatically, it will be session object will be created per user
No,
and
no,
one
no. When this line of code is written in the servlet, then only session will be created. Automatically will not be created.
Oh, okay. Okay, sir.
In the
Only
server side program,
when programmatically, if we write a line,
that
that
is
dot
most
get.
important. Session will never be created automatically. In the server side program, if this line is written, then only session is created. Session object is created.
For any URL, sir, for any URL when we are launching in a browser.
Not any URL, sir. If that URL goes to a server side program, in that, if this line is there, then only session is created.
Okay, sir. For any website, it follows the same step.
Yeah.
User needs to
If
do.
it is Java based, code is this.
Okay.
If any other technology, code may be different, but concept remains the same. Sir.
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Most welcome.
Sir, my name
Yeah.
is Ganesh. Good evening, sir. My question is session ID what they
No, sir, your voice not at all audible to me, not even one word.
Hello, sir. Now audible.
Yeah.
Sir, my question is what the session ID calculated?
No, sir, not clear. Voice not clear. It is disconnecting.
Okay, sir. I check.
Now it is okay. Louder, speak louder. I think that is the only reason.
Sir, my question is session ID calculate the user, yeah, session ID calculate the how many times user.
No, sir. No. Your connection problem. No, sir. Sorry. Not coming regularly. Others also are unable to listen to you, please. You will come back after 1 or 2 minutes. Please come back again. Others, please. Anybody.
Yeah, yeah, sir, I'm Nawaz. The session object we will create in any action or like only inside the service method we can create.
Servicing method of a servlet is nothing but do get or do post method.
So, do I need to create this session object inside the?
Definitely, this line of code we should write. In the example, you will get the clarity. I will
Okay,
give
so
example. Now you will see that. Yeah, that line should be executed. Then only it will be created.
no, I'm saying like once we will go in any click button like login button at that time, like this action will happen or like at the time of load the page, we will create this object.
I don't know whether loading or clicking the link or clicking on the button. I don't know. From the browser, request should go to which program? Server side program.
Yes.
In the server side programs, do get or do post method, I mean service method, this
Execute.
line is executed, then only that session object is created.
Okay. Yeah.
Whether it is button or whether it is a link or direct typing the URL does not matter. No?
Okay. Yeah.
Like that. Yes, sir.
If you are not using this line, then it will become a stateless protocol.
No. That is not that stateless. You don't want a session tracking. You are not writing that code means for that request processing, session tracking not required. That is the meaning.
Okay.
For example, you are entering your hall ticket number trying to get online result. In result servlet, you need not write this line of code because hall ticket number will come and send the select statement, get the marks, print the memo. That's all. There is no session tracking required.
Okay.
Right. Actually, I was expecting doubts from you. Per user, one separate session object, one session ID. That session ID is sent to the browser. Different users, any number of times they may be sending the request, but every time invisibly their unique session ID up and down traveled as a cookie up and client server side it will be traveling. Therefore, user we are able to recognize. Through session ID, we are able to recognize the user. First point. By storing the data, previous item, that previous item, where are you storing? In a single session object only. Any number of times user is doing online shopping, all the items you are storing where? In the same session object. That is one per user. Therefore, one session object, you can implement one shopping cart. Any number of interactions possible. Every time physically getting disconnected, but through session tracking, the user is still intact with the website. That is the intention of this explanation. Any more questions on this?
So what is the format of session ID? Like it is integer, string, or like
Why
combination of...
required? It is unnecessarily headache. That is internal affair. You never generate it. Internally, server and the internal API will generate it. Unnecessary headache will better not bear it because it is not visible to us, sir. That's it. Okay, let us continue the story. Okay, so my intention was how much this diagram understood. Any clarity required on this explanation sake, in between I entertained the doubts. Fine. So let us continue the story. This is first installment explanation, I told now. Now, whatever I was explaining, now technically a bit I will document. Okay, I will document. And when we see the example now, total clarity will come. But that example will be only tomorrow. What happens in the background? When the following statement is executed. Yeah. When get session method is called on HTTP servlet request object, the following things happen in order. So when get session method is called on the request object, the following things happen. In the given order only happen, please. Number one. Request object is evaluated for incoming session ID. Actually, request object, all that happen internally, please, in the library. In get session is not a user defined method, no? It is a library method. Within the body, that will happen. That's why when somebody was asking me that session ID, what format, it is none of our botheration. That's why I did not entertain that doubt. Internally, it will happen, please. Request object is evaluated for incoming session ID. Already I explained now. If the request is coming for the first time, in the request object, no ID will be there. Incoming session ID. Okay. Case 1. There are two cases here. session ID found in the request or session ID not found. Already I explained, please. From the browser, if request is coming for the first time, inside the request object, no session ID will come, na? Common sense. Okay. Tell me what will happen if it is not found. What will happen in the second point? Okay. Container creates a brand new HTTP session object. It also generates a unique session ID corresponding to that session object. Please remember, brand new session object created only when session ID not coming from the browser. Okay. This session ID and session object are maintained by the container as key value pairs. That's it. So only technically, if you think, you cannot understand this English. So request dot get session method is executed. Is session object brand new created every time? No. From the browser, if no session ID coming, then only brand new session object created. And one session ID also created. Very good. Session ID is written into response object. See, if a session ID is not written into response object, how session ID will go back to the browser? In the response object, session ID verified in the request object, if it is coming or not. But session ID written into the response object. That is why session ID is sent to the browser. Session ID is sent to the browser invisibly. That is why it will go like that. Four. HTTP session object reference is returned to the servlet. Observe. When get session method is called on the request object, just apply common sense. Either session object brand new created or existing object reference only written. Here only one issue. Definitely session reference is returned. Object reference is returned. But brand new object reference or old object reference, that is the only thing to understand. Case 1 here. Okay. Case 1, session ID not found in the request object. Case 2, session ID is found in the request object. Observe, first thing, request object evaluate. Session ID not found. So 2, 3, 4 will happen. Case 2 means in the first point, case 2, session ID found. Now 2, 3, 4 will differ. Okay, 2 times 2, 3, 4 coming, apply common sense. So in case 1, 2, 3, 4 different. In case 1, 2, 3, 4, case 2, 2, 3, 4 different. Tell me, session ID found means apply common sense here. Second time onwards, if the request is coming, definitely session ID will be found. Therefore, brand new session object not created, existing session object reference only returned. That's the only point. Container picks up the incoming session ID from the request object and searches for the corresponding HTTP session object. Please remember, I already told, if 100 users are interacting with website, 100 different session objects, for each session object, one separate ID will be maintained. So, key value pair like. So, first user, second time interacting, that ID will come. Internally, against that ID, which is the session object, searching will happen. Searches for the container does not create a new HTTP session object. Container does not create it returns the reference of already existing HTTP session object. So forget about multiple users. Assume one user only there. First time request coming. No session ID will come. Therefore, brand new session object created. One session ID created. And without exposing outside, internally what will happen? That session ID will be sent to the browser. Same user, second time interacting with the website, invisibly, just now browser received the session ID from the web server. No? So using HTTP, it will send that session ID back to the server. Now this line is executed. Request object is verified whether session ID coming or not. It is coming. Because it is coming, brand new session object not created. Existing session object reference only returned. Therefore, hundreds of times same user interacting, every time for that user, separate session object maintained. Hundreds of times data in a same place it is stored. Therefore, conflict will not come between the users. That is the concept. Session ID is written into the response object. So, difference is all the points common. If session ID is not there in the incoming request, brand new session object created. But if session ID found in the client request, existing session object reference only returned, brand new session object is not created. That's all technically. it is the second installment, please. With example program, I hope you will be getting more clarity. Okay. Session tracking 22/11/24. Yeah, session tracking. So here, this is the notes, please. So my teaching is over for today. From your side, any doubts you can ask. I have to unmute you. Yes, please. Any doubts you can ask. It seems no questions like.
Sir, any URL launching on browser,
Ah,
once if we get a response back from web server to the browser,
yeah.
so that is called stateless protocol, right?
No, that is wrong. From don't say browser. From the client,
Okay.
request goes to server. It may be stateful server or stateless server. Anything, assume.
Okay.
From the client, if request goes to the server,
Yes.
that client socket maintained by that server. It may be stateful or it may be stateless.
Okay.
But once a response sent to the client, if that client socket is destroyed, that is a stateless protocol.
Okay.
If socket is maintained, remembered for next interactions, then that protocol is stateful.
Okay. Okay.
Got the
Got it.
point or not?
Yes, sir.
Whether
We will.
stateless or stateful, connection socket maintenance is common.
Okay.
After sending the response, if the socket is destroyed, that is stateless protocol. If
Yeah.
socket is not destroyed, we need not implement session tracking because anyhow server is remembering that fellow. No?
Okay.
Like that. Your doubt clear?
Yes, sir.
Right.
Will the user will be knowing, or client will be knowing whether it is unstateful?
Nothing, nothing. No, 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 no.
Okay.
Users are not technical people or Java people, right? They want
Okay.
interaction with the website and should get the service, that's all.
Okay. So only at the server side we will be coming to know whether the
Exactly,
socket is
exactly. But even browser internally receives, browser internally resends that session ID up and down in the form of a cookie, actually.
okay, so got it.
Right. Yeah, I think no doubts. I am just signing off.